Oh, hey, you're still here. Fantastic. Because you're in for a real treat. Kate Buckley flew in all the way from California, virtually that is, just for this talk. So it's about branding and branding yourself. So it's time to create clarity and purpose around your own personal brand. And in this session, you're going to learn how to write your own brand positioning statement. You're going to learn a lot more, and it's a great time to reflect, especially what's been going on. So please welcome award-winning writer, executive coach, and branding expert, Kate Buckley. Kate, it's great to see you.
Hey, Peter, so great to see you. Thanks for having me
Hey.
on.
Yeah, I said you were virtually flying in from California, but you almost had to fly somewhere to go get internet, didn't you?
It's been a very interesting morning. Yes, power outage the day of NamesCon. Awesome.
Exactly, and we're glad you made it on time, and you didn't have to go fly somewhere. I know this is going to be a great way to end the day. So we're going to do some Q&A possibly later. So if you have some questions, you can post them in during the talk, and we'll get to them at the end. So Kate, I'm going to let you take it away. I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Buckley. Um, and today I'm going to talk about how to create a compelling narrative around your personal brand. As Peter mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask them in chat. Time allowing, they'll be collected for the end of my talk. In addition to my work with domains and brands at Buckley Media, I'm also passionate about interpersonal development. As a certified professional coach, I'm committed to facilitating both personal growth and systemic transformation through helping individuals and companies reframe their stories in order to reclaim their narratives, transitioning reality and transforming circumstances in order to thrive. Today, I'll share how you can create a compelling narrative around your own personal brand. Let's face it, regardless of your job title or industry, especially today, you are a brand. And if you don't define yourself, others will. Your brand is your business. Do you currently have a brand positioning statement? If so, are you happy with it? If not, why not? Consider, what are you a magnet for? What would you rather be a magnet for? How can you redefine your brand to attract your ideal colleagues, customers, and circumstances? What are the stories you are telling about yourself and your experience? Those will become your reality. Choose carefully the narratives you use to define yourself and your life's work. Choose to have life happen for you instead of to you. Focus on how you want to feel instead of what you think will make you happy. Pay attention to how your words make you feel. Choose to create a rich, meaningful life with the thoughts you think and the words you choose to express them. These will create your brand, both internally and externally. To quote Mary Wells Lawrence, the founding president of Wells Rich Green, an ad agency known for its innovative and revolutionary work, and who was the first female CEO of a company listed on the New York Stock Exchange, if you're not satisfied with your life, it's time to invent a new one. You choose what defines you, and don't be afraid to do it differently than everyone else. After all, that's what makes you, well, you. Now, I will lead you through a quick branding exercise in order to create clarity and purpose around your own personal brand. These findings will become the foundation of your personal brand positioning statement, even your own brand manifesto and personal dynamism statement. This will carry through not only your own website, but your social media platforms. Let's face it, we are all judged by our online footprint. So, grab a pen and paper or open a note-taking app on your device and record your answers to the following 15 questions. And remember, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask them in chat. 1, who are you as a person in one sentence? Don't overthink it. Now, distill. Number 2, who are you as a person in 3 words? 3 is the magic number in branding. 3, what do you offer the world? In branding terms, what is your USP, your unique selling proposition? How do you stand out? Question 4, with whom do you most connect? Who is your target audience? Number 5, what's distinctive about you? We all have unique qualities. What's your particular pattern or fingerprint, something no one else in the world has but you? Question 6, what's your personality? How do you make people feel? Question 7, what are your overall objectives? What do you wish to choose for your life? Number 8, is there a story that is unique to you? If so, how can you weave that into your overall narrative? Now, these next 2 might sound a little silly, but they are symbolically important to understand in order to best frame your personal narrative. Question 9, if you were an object, what would it be and why? Question 10, if you were an animal, which one would it be? And what does this animal symbolize for you? Think lions are strong, snakes are clever and sly. Now, let's zoom out. Question 11, how do your colleagues see you today? What are 3 words they would use to describe you? Question 12, how do you want your image to be perceived in 2 years? Question 13, how do you want people to feel after spending time with you? Number 14, what is your long-term vision for your life? Question 15, and lastly, what do you want people to say about you at the end of your life? If those questions went by a little fast for you, I have reproduced them on my coaching website. If you go to buckleycoaching.com and click on blog, it's the first blog post. Now, we'll move on to 5 powerful action steps. These are also included in the post, so if you want to do them later, feel free, but we'll go through them now. This is what we're going to do with the above knowledge. You've done this sort of internal audit, you've taken the time to get introspective, and now we're going to create deliverables. Action step number 1. Weave the answers on the above questions into a written brand narrative. What differentiates you? What sets you apart from everyone else? What can you uniquely bring forth into the world? Go big on this one and overwrite it, because you can always edit down. Be authentic, be memorable, and write to your audience, and pay attention to tone. This is where you get to reframe your story and reclaim your narrative. This should be positive and empowering. Keep at it until you have a concise narrative, no longer than 1 page, that clearly states your personal narrative statement. This will now be the foundation for all of your personal branding. Action step number 2, condense the above down and craft it into an actionable and dynamic terms in order to create your own personal brand manifesto in 1 paragraph. In the corporate world, a brand manifesto describes why your organization exists, its purpose and core values, and why people should care about your brand. And it's highly emotional charged, which is what differentiates it from a stereotypical mission statement. It should be bold, plant your flag, and inspire emotion. Now, apply this to you. Write in terms of your purpose. Think I believe statements. A strong manifesto will ignite not only emotions, but actions. As Simon Sinek famously said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Think Nike, saying, purpose moves us. Our purpose is to unite the world through sport to create a healthy planet, active communities, and an equal playing field for all. Inspiring, right? Or Starbucks. Our mission, to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. This finished statement can be internal or external, or both. Your manifesto can be made public and used on your website and or LinkedIn and other social platforms if appropriate, but you may prefer to simply keep it at your desk and read it daily to remind you who you are and what you stand for. Action step number 3, condense the written personal narrative into a 1-sentence personal branding statement. This will speak to your specific expertise and can live on your corporate bio page, LinkedIn page, and across other social platforms. Remember to keep it consistent and remember to keep content on brand. Your online reputation, online identity, and social media is an essential part of personal branding and lives forever. This can also serve as your own personal elevator pitch for networking. A personal branding statement, as we say in the ad world, has legs. Action step number 4, craft your own personal dynamism statement. This is an I am statement. Choose at least 3 modifiers. This one isn't for public consumption. It's to remind you who you truly are, a sort of affirmation, if you will. For instance, one of my executive coaching clients crafted, I am compassionate, driven, and strong. This statement has indeed driven her to start her own company and revision her purpose. Last, action step number 5, perform an online and social media audit. Now that you've defined your brand, make sure that your online identity is in alignment. You can be sure that your potential clients, customers, and employers are going to scour the internet looking for clues as to who you really are. Make sure that your online identity matches the real world you and the brand you built for yourself. So do it. Google yourself. Read the results through the eyes of your ideal client. Does it match the authentic you and the careful branding work you've just done? If not, update, edit, and delete till it does. And don't forget the social media platforms. This is where a lot of people go a little rogue. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, anything that is publicly viewable. Once you feel good about the public you, make sure that any content you produce moving forward, not only for your company, but personal tweets and posts as well, is in alignment with your personal brand and your purpose. Keep yourself honest. A good rule of thumb is, if in doubt, don't. Discretion truly is the better part of valor. Use the above deliverables to define your brand and fuel your purpose, both in your personal and professional life. Become your own best advocate. Know your purpose, speak your purpose so you can live your purpose. Remember, reframe your story in order to reclaim your narrative. You are the hero of your own story. You choose what defines you. Create a personal brand that is rich with meaning and authenticity. And don't forget to have fun. We have some time now for some Q&A, and I'm excited to hear what you thought and any questions you may have. And let's see, we've got...
Hey! There we go. Fantastic. Yeah, so first and foremost, I noticed I was taking notes here, okay? I was trying to keep up. And where can people in the audience find the questions and everything? What was the website again?
Yeah, buckleycoaching.com. If you go
BuckleyCoaching.com.
yes, buckleycoaching.com is actually a redirect to my coaching site, which is this is why I bought both buckleycoaching.com, and transform.com. So it'll redirect there, click blog, and it's the first post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in this day and age, it's somebody's talking about like that there was somebody else was mentioning over here, and they're like saying that a lot of people have taken this time with COVID and the quarantine to really refocus. And what we've seen in the last few years is like people have been leaning more towards themselves as a brand. And now it's really starting to kick into high gear. And using domains, like for me, because I do a lot of live streaming, and it doesn't matter if it's where I'm doing something for fitness or if I'm doing something with the music business or domains, it's my name, peterschwing.live, and you can always find, here's my live streams. It doesn't matter the topic. It doesn't matter my other companies. This is what I do. And how do you approach then, like when you say, okay, we build this brand statement, incorporating that into domains? What if you can't find your own domain name?
You might not be looking hard enough. So I own katebuckley.com, buckleymedia.com, buckleymediagroup.com, buckleycoaching.com, kate.me.com. Oh, see what I just did? So there's a way. There's always a way. And especially, I mean, Peter, you have a distinctive last name. I bet we can find one for you.
Yeah. So Schwing, or as the German pronunciation, Schwinga, I remember Schwing.com. I remember trying to get in. This was back in the 90s, and it was like an email server. It was like an Earthlink or something like that. And I think Earthlink did buy it eventually. We do have a question here, and I think I know this person, Tess Diaz. How often? Yeah, exactly. That's what's still great about NamesCon. Even though we're doing this virtually, we still get to connect. She was asking, how often would you recommend revisiting and/or amending your brand statement?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Yeah.
Great point. I would say at a very, very, very minimum, once a year. I find that it's a really helpful thing to do at the beginning of the year. It sort of goes along with if you happen to make New Year's resolutions, or if you're someone who does all of your scheduling and planning and charting for the year at the beginning of the year. I find it's a really great time to revisit that and make sure that it still rings true for you. It's still in alignment for you. And if there's anything you need to shift, it's a great time to do it. And then, of course, you can make sure that content is filtered throughout your various platforms accordingly.
Yeah, no, that's great. And because it really actually, when you are developing and creating your personal statement and your branding statement, it shouldn't be something that is a weekend, just a weekend homework assignment. It really should take some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Another question here is, once you define your personal brand and know what you want to do, how do you actually, in reality, create that perception for yourself?
Mm-hmm. That is why everything that you do with your personal branding has to be rooted in authenticity, right? Be truthful, be authentic, and be memorable. Because if it's not, you will have a big fat fail as you go to try to shift your online perception. You start to shift that by, of course, updating your own website, any social platforms that you're a part of, and then you really start to shift it by producing content, right? So if you're a blogger, if you're a tweeter, if you attend different forums or conferences, much like this one, what are you sharing? What's your content? What does your content say about you and your personal brand and your professional brand and your company? Make sure it's all in alignment.
Yeah, and that's a key point is just being able to like once you put I've done similar exercises and Kate, I took those notes down and I'm gonna go through this and go through all your points there. But what I can say, from my experience and Kate can corroborate or even add on to it is that you're like you look at it, it's like, hey, what do I want to be? It's like, they say dress the part you want to be. Well, write down your story that you want to be in, in 3 years or even next year. And then what do you need to do that to get there? So you think about that and you say, how do I picture myself? Well, what is it you need to do? And then you don't try to take the sledgehammer and fix it all next week. It's going to take time. But like what the baby steps, and what do you think would be like the first set of baby steps?
Well, it depends on what your goal is, but I like what you said, Peter. I mean, and that's very much how I work in coaching. I work with my clients to set the big goals. Where are you now? Where do you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? And what are the steps you need to take, sort of the roof shots, if you will, to get to the moonshot, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. So we chart that plan together, and it becomes a roadmap to your destiny. And then I hold them accountable, right? Where are you on the journey? What action steps did you take this week, this month to get there? And if you didn't, why not? What's underneath that? There's always an underlying emotion, right? Are you acting out of love or fear? If it's fear, what's the fear? Let's break it down. I am so sorry I turned everything off and the world is still with us.
You never know. I had so many notifications, and because I have like 5 windows open over here, by the way. So yeah. I have like, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at me. I have the WhatsApp, the WeChat, the email, and I swore I turned off all the notifications. I had this little earpiece in, okay, and all I hear is these beeps going off. So while I'm listening to you, it's like beep, beep. So
technology is insidious.
Yes, the beauty of live. And it's really key about like taking small steps. It's like if you reflect, you say, hey, this week I want to focus on this one thing, and at the end of the day, write down. It's like, did I accomplish that? Or what did I accomplish? What did I do that brought me closer to my goal? We're starting to get a few more questions in here. Let's see. So I'm going to tie these in because there are 2 that are domaining, and it goes back to a little bit what I was asking. So the first one here is, can you relate branding to domaining? And then the second one here is Meredith Monroe. Do you think it's best or better to use your firstlast.com or a brandable or a generic 2-word phrase that mirrors your dynamic statement as your personal branding domain?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's largely a matter of personal preference, depending on how well you do the second option. That said, if you can acquire, if you don't have it already, your first and last name.com, I think it's incredibly smart. Even if just from a brand protection standpoint, I own katebuckley.com. I actually use it for my writing, my poetry, my painting, events. But I still have it because I don't want anyone else to have it. That said, if you are not able to acquire your first name, last name.com, then yeah, I think it's absolutely appropriate to either put together a portmanteau domain or a 2-word.com that describes your purpose and what you offer the world. Even a brandable, if it's clever and well done. I think that's absolutely, and of course, ideally, do all of the above.
Exactly. Yeah, and first and foremost, get your name. Yes, go with first and last name. If you can get that .com, that is your personal branding. But the other thing is, and going along with, like you said, those 2 or 3 words, if you can get those, or if you can get that with a cool TLD, like a cool extension, it's like that's something else. And even, if I could throw something in, because I buy so many domains that I just might register for a year because it's an idea. I'm like, here's this branding idea. Yep. If you have an idea, grab it. It's not expensive. It's better investment, and GoDaddy has packages. You save more, if you go for a 5 year. But if you just want to go, I just want to test this out for a year. If I don't use it, I throw it away. Or maybe you auction it off at the NamesCon domain at the auction sale. I have no idea how I just segued that plug in, but everybody should be paying attention to the auction. And yeah, so if there's anything you want to add on to that before I jump into another question.
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with you. I think that's excellent advice. Anytime I'm helping a client brainstorm for a new brand platform or a new product, I'm like, register the domain, and even for myself, my fiance and I will be sitting around just kind of brainstorming and, oh, wouldn't this be a cool product idea service company? And I immediately register the domain. So yes, absolutely do that.
And you might be surprised, there are still domains out there available that you like, oh no, I had it happen to me. I was coming up with something for a music industry thing, and it was like one of those 1 a.m. things. I'm like, I need to rebrand this company because what this is not working. And the light bulb came on at like 1 a.m. I went to, went online, is Music Industry City available? I'm like, there's no way this is available in this day and age, because you have Atlanta, LA, Nashville, all claiming to be music industry cities. I'm like, there's no way this is available. It's available. I slammed the buy button. I think I broke my mouse. I clicked it so fast. Nice. But yeah, you can find things that are out there. So we're starting to get a whole bunch in. So we'll just get rolling on this. All right.
Right.
All right. How important is to own the .com rather than another extension? So it's like, if you can get your .com, go with it. But if you have to, if you get a .net, a .co, a .io, a .live, if you do, or .music is, you can still, you're applying for it. They finally got that going, but maybe you're something with your brand.
Well, you know who you're asking this question to. So I would say, figure out a way to get the .com. It's going to be hard enough to get people to remember the left of the dot without asking them to also remember the right of the dot. Now there's now if you're B2B, it's not as important obviously as B2C, and there's certain instances where it can be appropriate as well. Obviously a lot of tech companies use .io, .ai, so there's certainly some instances where that can be appropriate. But, and again, if you can, get both. Get the .com and then defensively register it in every other extension or acquire it that you can.
Yeah. And there are, registrars that will give you those suggestions as well. You might want to add this on. All right, so I have 3 here, and Kate, you're going to head over to the breakout lounge for a little bit afterwards?
Yeah.
You have time? Okay, great. So we're going to wrap up these 3 questions. If you do have more, Kate is going to head over to the lounge, to the breakout session table. So be on the lookout for in a few moments. Let's see, keywords. Okay, are there any kind of good keywords people often overlook? And conversely, are there any words people often want to incorporate into their brands that actually should be avoided?
Interesting. I'm not really sure how this relates so much to personal branding, but happy to answer it. Keywords, let's see. I would avoid, especially with your personal branding, I would avoid overused words like, any superlative, because that just sounds really unprofessional to say about oneself. But, the greatest, the most amazing. So, avoid superlatives, avoid jargon, right? There's so much corporate jargon, especially technical jargon, that's thrown around. Like, if I use this word, I really know what I'm talking about. Avoid that. Just say what you actually mean. I find that people relate to that in a much more authentic and meaningful fashion.
Yeah, or any kind of slang, because even if your brand is global, you never know what that word could mean in a different country.
Yeah, great point, Peter. Great point.
Okay. I like this question. Sometimes in a story, the anti-hero becomes the hero. What advice would you have someone whose authentic self, in a sense, is the anti-brand? So it's like, yeah.
Who asked that question? I love that question.
Michael Curving wrote that one.
Michael, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are going on your own hero's journey and you currently consider yourself to be an anti-hero and you aspire to become a hero, then that's where authenticity comes into play, right? Think about public figures who've messed up, right? Think about how they've handled it. The ones who have done the best as far as just sort of redemption, right? And society going, that's all right. You know what? We all make mistakes. Are the ones who've been authentic. They've said, you know what? This happened. I did this. I own this. I regret this. I would do this differently if I could. And here are the meaningful things that I've done to atone for it, and to move forward, and then change the conversation. Here's what I want to focus on now. Here are my current initiatives. Here's why I'm proud of them. And here's why you should get behind them, right? All of a sudden we have a new conversation.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and that hero's journey story. It's like that you can fold in to your story.
And
it's like should. That. Yeah, and even if you're trying to be the anti-brand and anti-hero, it's so many. I think it's very few actually are truly anti without being part of the system in some way. All right, so one more finally, so seeing that in domaining, so it's a domain conference, so we're gonna wrap with the domaining question here. All right, seeing that in domaining, we may have our personal brand as well as our domaining brand, and some even have their startup brand. How to best juggle the time, message, effort, perception across these. And that's Alex Kurlov. So Alex, that's a good question, because I come across that myself. It's like, well, my personal brand, am I selling my personal brand and then going here, or am I selling, what am I presenting? And sometimes, like, which hat do I have to wear?
Yeah, that's another great question. The simplest way to do that is to, again, make sure that all of the parts of yourself, the startup that you're launching, your personal brand, also your brand as a domainer, are in alignment. Make sure that the messaging flows throughout. That if you are a person that is maybe really humorous and people really love that about you, I would incorporate humor into all of those brands. But I work with founders on branding. I do like a very long branding exercise with them, and we absolutely get into their personal life stories and their personal values and characteristics. And we weave that informs the tone of the company branding, and it just keeps it very authentic and very on target, and it really resonates with people, because the more we humanize brands and domains, for that matter, humanize domaining, the more relatable we are, and the more we can pull people in and involve them in the conversation.
I think two people come to mind. John Legere, when he was T-Mobile CEO, and he was doing his live streamings, and like, here I'm cooking, here hang out with me, I'm playing guitar. And then like Ryan Reynolds, with everything Ryan Reynolds does now.
Really?
And yeah, so take a look at like what people like that are doing, and how their character and they working with brands. So Kate, thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure. And hopefully next time we're going to be in person doing this, and we can sit at the same table, hang out. We'll get some microphones out and everything. But before you go, I want to ask you one final question, which was your question number 10. If you were an animal, which would you be?
I would be a horse.
A horse?
Yeah.
Right on. I like it.
Yeah, I grew up riding horses in Lexington, Kentucky, and there is no better feeling than being stretched over a horse's neck, mane in your hands, racing flat out against the wind. The only thing better, I think, would be that horse. And horses are loyal, they are athletic, they are kind, they are smart, and they're non-violent. They eat grass. So I would be a horse.
I love it. Thank you so much. I would be a tiger, but that's a whole different story. So, Kate, thank you so much. Glad the internet still worked out. And everybody else, well, that's it for today. Thank you to all the attendees for tuning in. I trust it was a great kickoff for all of you. Have a great day, afternoon, or night, wherever you may be, and see you tomorrow.